For centuries, explorers and scholars have unearthed fragments of a past that refuses to fit comfortably within our neat timelines. The stones speak in a language of geometry and resonance. The ruins hum with a pattern that suggests deliberate design across continents. But buried within these discoveries is a more unsettling whisper that, in epochs long before our recorded history, humans crafted devices and machines so precise that modern engineers still stand baffled. These were not crude mechanisms, but instruments of astonishing subtlety, structures that amplified the Earth's voice chambers, that tuned to the sky's frequencies, and mechanisms that channeled forces we would call energy, if only we could measure them in our terms. Tonight, we follow that whisper. We trace the outline of what some call the silent machines of antiquity, placing stone beside stone, myth beside measurement, until a picture emerges. A world where architecture and apparatus merged into functioning systems. Imagine temples built not just for worship, but as resonant cavities, their corridors shaped to produce focused harmonics at precise pitches. Imagine towers that, like planetary tuning forks, caught atmospheric currents and converted them into motion or power. Imagine devices embedded in city grids that controlled water, flow, and even magnetic flux, guided by an understanding of forces that modern science is only beginning to recognize. These ideas challenge the comfortable narrative that equates antiquity with technological infancy. They propose instead that knowledge rises and falls, is preserved in monuments, and then deliberately hidden, scattered across deserts, buried beneath seas, or transformed into myth. Consider machines described in obscure manuscripts, overlooked inscriptions, and allegorical art representations of gears, levers, and pulleys rendered by sculptors who were also engineers, a fusion of art and mechanism lost in translation. In ancient ports, anchors and hoists, carved with incredible precision, suggest a forgotten mechanical sophistication. In mountain sanctuaries, we find stone bearings and dovetail joints displaying tolerances that defy the idea of simple stone chisels. Across rivers and coasts, hydraulic designs hint at engineered flow control, with sluices and pumps that would have allowed vast cities to manage water with an elegance unmatched until modern times. Now, let us weave these fragments with the legends of sky machines and sound temples. Myths that describe cities vibrating like living instruments and temples that sang during ceremonies, producing effects described as both transformative and terrifying. Could these descriptions be poetic metaphor, or are they records of observed engineering? The evidence refuses a simple dismissal. Acoustic measurements in some ancient chambers reveal frequency amplification consistent with deliberate design. Alignment studies show that many structures correlate not only with stars, but also with magnetic anomalies and seismic faults. Consider the accounts of travelers who described luminous columns, walls that sparked with light on moonless nights, and statues that seemed to hum when touched. To skeptics, these were hallucinations or superstition. To others, they were the last recollections of technologies best forgotten. The stakes of this inquiry are enormous. If antiquity once held instruments capable of harnessing natural forces, the implications for our understanding of history, energy, and power are profound. So why would such knowledge be hidden? One theory points to collapse cataclysms that severed the chain of transmission, leaving survivors who, fearful of the technology's dangers, buried them. Another theory suggests deliberate suppression. Later states, recognizing the disruptive potential of energy systems that could free cities from scarcity, may have rewritten history and recut monuments to conceal their original functions. Across eras, evidence hints at such interventions. Libraries disappear, scripts are burned, monuments are repurposed or dismantled, their precision recut into new forms that obscure their original purpose. But we may not be entirely bereft. Modern tools, satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and lidar are peeling back the layers of time. We're locating subterranean chambers, detecting residual magnetism in quarried stones, and identifying mineral deposits altered by heat and pressure consistent with ancient industrial processes. One striking case reveals a buried complex where stone conduits suggest the movement of liquids under pressure, possibly part of a closed-cycle hydraulic system. Nearby chambers contain concentrations of rare earths, arranged in patterns that, when tested, produce electromagnetic anomalies at specific frequencies. Another site shows concentric stone rings aligned with solar and lunar cycles, but also containing cavities tuned to resonances that, in modern labs, are capable of focusing vibrational energy. When stimulated, these cavities respond with harmonic overtones that can alter the behavior of surrounding materials, an effect that could have been harnessed for levitation, preservation, or structural modulation. These discoveries invite a radical reconsideration. Perhaps ancient technologies existed that manipulated environmental parameters, microclimates, currents, even localized gravity gradients, to create habitable conditions and achieve extraordinary feats. Of course, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Skeptics rightly demand reproducibility and peer-reviewed replication. And yet, the physical traces remain, waiting for interpretation. Beyond the physical, there is the human element, the rituals, the transmitted knowledge, the social systems that governed the use of these powerful instruments. Evidence suggests strict custodial practices, secretive priest engineers, and rites designed to limit access. Controlled knowledge concentrates power, and where power exists, so does the motive to hide it. If these custodians once existed, their silence may be the reason we lack continuous historical records. Oral traditions became myth, technical treatises became allegory, and the machines themselves were dismantled or entombed. Yet the blueprints of their effect survived in the stones, the alignments and the lingering anomalies that our instruments can now detect. The question for our age is whether we will decode these messages or let them remain tantalizing footnotes. Rediscovery carries risk. Technologies that alter environments or concentrate energy could disrupt modern systems of trade, power, and governance. They could offer solutions: clean energy, durable construction, climate control, but they could also be weaponized or misapplied. This moment is therefore a test of our maturity. Can humanity approach these findings with curiosity, rigor, and ethical restraint? In pursuit of answers, multidisciplinary teams are uniting. Archaeologists, physicists, engineers, and linguists are collaborating to model these ancient systems. Experimental archaeology attempts to recreate mechanisms based on blueprints extracted from ruins. Acoustic engineers map resonant cavities and build scale models to test hypotheses about energy transmission. As the veil lifts, stories resurfaced older than the empires that eclipsed them, preserved in pottery, song, and stone. These are not fanciful tales, but echoes of human experience, memories of a people who lived with luminous machines, singing temples, and engineered landscapes. They point to a conclusion that unsettles our comfortable arc of progress: that knowledge can regress, and mastery can be forgotten. With rediscovery comes responsibility. If the silent machines of antiquity can be understood and ethically reintegrated, they might offer pathways to sustainable technology systems that harmonize with natural cycles rather than dominating them. This is the promise that compels us to look deeper, to excavate with care, and to listen to the stones themselves. As you hear this, remember that history is a conversation across millennia. The ancients spoke in structures, not headlines. They encoded wisdom in geometry and resonance. And now, as modern tools translate their script, we find ourselves at a crossroads: to fear the unknown or to steward it. The choice will define the centuries to come. If these ideas stir you, leave a comment with your thoughts. Share your doubts, your hopes, and your theories. Subscribe to follow our ongoing investigation into ancient technologies, and remember, every stone we uncover is a question, and every ruin is a lesson. The silent machines of antiquity await our attention. May we rise to the task with humility and courage.